The bus sighed as Ayan stepped aboard. It was an ordinary Tuesday evening, or it should have been. He found an empty seat, the plastic cool beneath him. A man sat down beside him a moment later, and then Ayan knew. The scent, faint at first, then stronger. It was the scent of dust and old paper, the scent of an ending. 9 minutes. The man beside him had precisely 9 minutes left to live. This knowledge settled upon Ayan like a familiar shroud, unwelcome yet undeniable. He hated this knowing, this curse masquerading as a gift. The man was old. His suit, though clean, was frayed at the cuffs. Thin grey hair lay plastered to his scalp. He clutched a worn leather satchel to his chest as if it held all the secrets of the world, or perhaps just his own. Ayan felt the usual cold dread begin to seep into his bones. It started in his fingertips, a precursor to the chill that always accompanied the final moments. He had seen this too many times. The certainty of it was absolute, a dark star in his inner sky. The world outside the bus window continued its oblivious journey, unaware of the small, personal apocalypse about to unfold. The bus rumbled, a beast of metal and glass, carrying its cargo of souls through the darkening city. Streetlights painted fleeting stripes of orange across the passengers' faces. Ayan tried to focus on the rhythm of the engine, the hiss of the hydraulic doors at each stop, anything but the man. But the knowledge was a magnet pulling his attention. The seconds ticked by in his mind, a silent, relentless metronome. He could almost see the phantom chill coalescing around the old man, a shimmering distortion in the air that only he could perceive. He was an island of dreadful awareness in a sea of blissful ignorance. 9 minutes. It was always so precise. Never 8.5, never 9.25. A fixed point in the flowing river of time. He wondered, as he always did when the knowing came, about its purpose. Was he meant to be a harbinger, a silent witness, or was it merely a cruel cosmic joke to see the threads of fate but be powerless to snip or reweave them? The man beside him coughed, a dry, papery sound. He seemed lost in his own thoughts, perhaps replaying memories or simply tired, utterly unaware of the countdown that had begun. The bus was a capsule, hurtling through the evening. Rain began to fall, thin needles against the glass, blurring the city into a watercolour of grey and neon. Each droplet seemed to mark another second lost, another moment closer to the inevitable. The air inside grew heavy with the smell of damp coats and stale perfume, a mundane perfume for the profound event Ayan anticipated. He tried to breathe deeply, to push down the rising panic, but the certainty of what was to come was a stone in his gut. He was trapped with this knowledge, a prisoner of his own perception. He glanced around. Faces swam in his vision, a collection of strangers. Some were illuminated by the glow of their phones, others stared blankly ahead, lost in the day's fatigue. Did any of them sense the shift in the atmosphere? The subtle dimming of the light that seemed to cling to the old man? No, they were insulated by their own lives, their own small dramas. Ignorance, Ayan thought, must be a profound comfort, a soft blanket he could never pull over himself. He felt terribly, utterly alone, the custodian of a terrible secret. The old man shifted, a slight rustle of fabric. His internal world was a tempest. Should he speak? What could he possibly say? "Excuse me, sir, but your life is about to end in a handful of minutes." The words sounded like madness even in the privacy of his own mind. He had tried once or twice in the early days of this curse. The reactions were always the same. Disbelief, quickly followed by fear or scorn, sometimes pity. It never altered the outcome. It only served to make the final moments more fraught, more painful for all involved. Silence had become his grim companion. He risked another look at the man. His eyes were closed now, his face relaxed, as if he were merely napping. But Ayan knew it wasn't sleep. It was something else. A quiet surrender before the final curtain call. The bus hit a pothole, a sudden jolt that made the passengers sway. The old man's hand, veined and thin, tightened its grip on the satchel. The clock in Ayan's mind ticked without mercy, 6 minutes remaining. The pressure in his chest was immense, a physical manifestation of his silent, screaming dread. Suddenly, the man stirred. His eyelids fluttered open. They were surprisingly clear, his eyes, like polished stones, They found Ayan's and held them. There was no alarm in that gaze, only a profound, weary recognition. "You feel it too, don't you?" the man whispered. His voice was a dry rustle, like autumn leaves skittering across pavement. Ayan was frozen, words caught in his throat. How could this stranger know? The question hung in the stale, recycled air of the bus, not an accusation, but a quiet statement of shared, unfortunate truth. The man's fingers, slow and deliberate, fumbled with the tarnished brass clasp of his leather satchel. He drew out a small, unassuming notebook. Its cover was a dark, indeterminate colour, perhaps once black or deep brown, now worn smooth with age and handling. It looked like it had absorbed countless sorrows. He opened it with a sigh, the pages brittle and yellowed at the edges. They were filled with names, columns of names, written in a neat, spidery hand, followed by dates. A cold premonition, different from his usual sense, prickled Ayan's skin. This was something more. "They all passed on," the man murmured, his voice so low Ayan had to strain to hear it above the bus's drone. "I knew their time, just as you, I suspect, know mine now." He tapped a frail finger beside a name near the bottom of the current page. "It is a burden, this knowing. A heavy cloak to wear through life, wouldn't you agree, young man? To see the final punctuation before the sentence is complete, to count the grains of sand for others." His eyes, ancient and sad, held no trace of self-pity, only a deep, resonant sorrow. Ayan finally managed to speak. His voice was a strangled whisper. How do you know about me? About what I see?" The old man offered a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, a flicker of melancholic understanding. "We are rare, but we exist, you and I. Those who walk in the twilight, who hear the whispers others ignore. This book," he patted the cover gently, "it helps me remember them. A small token, perhaps a futile one, but it is my way of bearing witness, of saying they were here." He turned another page. More names, an endless river of them. "There is truly nothing you can do," the old man stated, his gaze unwavering, strangely comforting. "My story is reaching its end. The ink on my final page is already drying." He gestured vaguely towards his notebook. A peculiar sense of calm washed over Ayan, quickly followed by a wave of profound despair. The immediate agonizing burden of whether to intervene was lifted, only to be replaced by a more pervasive existential dread. He was, it seemed, merely a spectator in this grand, unchangeable theatre of life and death. His foreknowledge was a script he could read, but never rewrite. The minutes were dissolving like mist. 2 left. The bus continued its journey, a moving stage for this quiet, final act. The city lights outside seemed to sharpen, each one a pinprick in the encroaching darkness. The man took a shallow, rattling breath. "Don't let it hollow you out, this sight," he rasped, his voice fading. "Find your own way to carry it, or it will become an anchor, dragging you down into the shadows with it." He closed his eyes again. His face in the dim light was oddly serene. Ayan watched, a knot of helplessness tightening in his chest. The cold was intense now. 1 minute. The world seemed to slow. The sounds of the bus, the engine, the chatter, the squeal of brakes receded into a distant hum. The old man's breathing hitched once, twice. A soft, almost inaudible sigh escaped his lips, like a bird taking flight. And then, stillness. A profound, absolute stillness that contrasted sharply with the vibrant, oblivious city rushing past the windows. The other passengers murmured, laughed, scrolled on their devices, entirely unaware. Only Ayan knew. The life force beside him had winked out quietly, without ceremony. The premonition, as always, had been unerringly true. The man's hand, which had rested on the open notebook, slipped away. The small book lay on his lap, pages exposed. A morbid curiosity, or perhaps a sense of shared destiny, compelled Ayan. He leaned closer, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. The last entry on the visible page was written in ink that still looked faintly damp. It was the old man's name, followed by today's date. And then, directly beneath it, one final name. Ayan's breath caught. His blood turned to ice. The neatly penned letters spelled out his own name. Ayan. The Ledger of Souls had one more entry.